And here is Dr. Katie Nall, our EFT master practitioner and our mathematician. Girl, you are rocking it. Welcome to the Victim to the Victor show. It's so awesome to have you on. How are you doing today in sunny Florida?
Oh, Anu, first of all, thank you for your podcast. I think what you're doing is very valuable and very important. So on all your listeners who are listening, I say thank you. I really value what you're doing. So yeah, I'm in Florida and it got really chilly this week. In Fahrenheit, it was down to 59 degrees and we were freezing.
Wow, girl. Oh my God, I would love that.
I know. Everything else is like, that's freezing. I'm like, yeah, I had three cups on.
Exactly.
Well, at 7 in the morning, I knew I'm off at the beach doing fun. And so, it gets a little windy and the sun is coming up and I'm freezing. So
that's hilarious. You would hate it here in the UK right now. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And it's so dark as well, because I suppose it doesn't get like in Florida in terms of the daylight, you don't really get much of a change.
It's usually daylight from like 6:30 in the morning until about 5:30 at night with the change. When our daughter was in school in Tennessee, in Nashville, Tennessee, it was dark by 4 in the afternoon. And
we like that here now. So it's like, welcome darkness.
My old friend. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. So again, thank you so much for coming on. It'll be great to find out more about, what you're currently doing in terms of the emotional freedom therapy. I'd love for you to kind of dive more in and educate my listeners on what exactly this amazing technique is, which I am a huge fan of, by the way. So what made you start this journey of emotional freedom therapy?
So it was by accident, right? The best things happen by accident. Yeah. I was a mature adult returning back to school after being out for 30 years. And I was in my mid 50s when I decided to go back and earn my Ph.D. in math education. And at the time I was working at a college anew, and I had student after student coming into my office saying they only had one class left to finish. And I said, that's great. Let's get you registered. What is it? And they said, it was math. And I said, fabulous idea. You saved the best for last.
Yeah.
Well, I knew that wasn't what they were thinking at all. And so many of them were ready to give up. And there was just one class left to finish. And I wanted to help those students get past that so that they could get their degree. Yeah. So and part of my research for my dissertation, I wanted to find ways to help students overcome fear and anxiety about math and test taking. And Anu, do you know what I found out? Nothing. There's nothing out there. Nothing. It was it was if you're having problems with math, you need to study harder, or you need to get into a study group or change teachers. I'm like, I can't even get these people to register for class.
No, right. It's math.
Yeah, I know. They're so overwhelmed. So recognizing it as a word problem, you extract what you need from the word problem. So I started looking at how do people overcome fear and anxiety? And that was the year 2010. I ran into Nick Ortner's 10-day tapping summit, which he has every year. I would encourage everybody to go. And I watched all 10 days. I bought the book. I bought the DVD. I tried it out on myself. And I had all these students who were desperate. And Anu, you and I know that desperate clients are the best, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Desperate time, desperate measures.
Yeah, they'll try anything. So I'm like, I have no idea if this is going to work or not. So why don't you come in my office and we'll just like tap together and figure out if this works or not. So they would come in, we would tap, and then they'd go away. And a few weeks later, they'd kind of knock on my door and say, Dr. Nall, I think I passed my math class. Well, I never knew who was more surprised, them or me, because I had no idea if it was going to work or not. Because in the Tapping Summit, they talk about overcoming relationship problems, finance problems, health problems. Nobody talks about math or tests.
No, never. It's addiction, like, addiction to food and apps. Yeah, just all sorts, but never educational stuff.
No. So it was working and I was like, oh my gosh, this is fabulous. So I had a chance to teach math at the college on an adjunct basis. And every time I teach them tapping first.
Oh, I love that. You're like a therapist.
Well, no, I'm a mathematician.
Okay, let's get that right.
Get that clear. I'm a mathematician who does some things called energy psychology.
Wow, I love that. It's all energy. So what is the link between energy and maths?
So I think what happens is students get into a math class, and what I found is that many students who are scared of math have been told two things when they were growing up. One, they've been told math is hard. It's not. No. And they've also been told that they're no good at math. And that's not true. I've seen students. I had a Kumon franchise for years, which is a Japanese tutoring program. And I had students that were 2 years old to adult. I had students who were special education to gifted. And I saw everyone increase their math skills just by following certain steps. Yeah. So I knew that they could do it. They didn't know that they could do it, right? And isn't that the biggest blockage, especially when we're going from victims to victory, right?
Yeah, it's belief, it's your own belief system, and it's just how you perceive the world and how you perceive maths in this case. And you're right, maths has such a stigma associated with it. Nobody really likes maths, but I must admit, growing up, I actually enjoyed maths because for me, once I grasped a problem or an equation, how to work something out, and that's it. You can work out the rest of the 20 questions. So it's mindset. It's all in the mind.
Mm-hmm. Well, and if you think about it, math is the one subject where there's one correct answer.
Yeah.
In all the other subjects, you can kind of talk your way through it. You can defend your position. Yeah. But in math, when they say 2 + 2, they want to know what the answer is. Yeah. And so it makes it a lot easier for those who are people who like to punish to be able to give them a reason to punish, unfortunately. And I also think being in the field of mathematics, I've seen so many mathematicians that's the only thing in life that they're good at, right? They're just good at math. They're not good at anything else. They may be socially awkward. They may not like to speak. They may not, there's a lot of other things, but they're really good at math. Yeah. And so I think for some mathematicians, they don't want other people to be good at math because, right? They may have insecurities about it.
Yeah. Absolutely. I know sometimes you think that when you're at school or college, and especially when it comes to the elite students who are highly smart, sometimes they can be a threat, and it can be quite intimidating for a lecturer or a teacher to teach them. What happens
when you think about it, Anu, when you're going into school and these kids that are like really super smart and what happens to them as adults? I mean, do you ever find super smart adults? It's like it all levels out as we age, right?
Yeah.
So people get all excited about kids that are like super smart. I'm like, just hold your horses. It's all going to be okay.
Oh my goodness, that is so true. You're right. Because even, so, when you get to the age of 40, 50 and, you're working alongside, PhD, doctorate students, and, you've got like 20 years of experience under your belt in the same job. At the end of the day, you're the same person really in that job. What's the difference? Wow, some acronyms behind your name.
Yeah.
But that I don't want to be devaluing obviously PhD students because you are one of them. But it's an interesting thought. So tell us about waffles.
Waffles. So I'm a waffles dissolver.
Woo!
I help people dissolve their waffles. I help them dissolve their worries, anxiety, fear, frustration, lethargy, exhaustion, and stress. And I do it using emotional freedom technique, also called EFT or tapping.
Oh, lovely. Yeah. And so, this show is obviously for, trauma survivors and those who have overcome abuse in their lives. EFT, I speak about this a lot in podcasts and also in my book, but it's a fantastic technique to work on trauma. What's your advice on that?
So I wish I would have had it when I was growing up, because my background was not the childhood perfect place, but yeah, tapping or EFT is really, really good for trauma. In fact, the person who designed EFT tapping, his name is Gary Craig. He's an electrical engineer from Stanford University, and he went to Veterans Administration hospitals here in the United States and worked with Vietnam vets. Now, I knew those vets had been hospitalized and drugged for 40 years. And he went and did tapping with them for a week. And after a week's worth of tapping, so I've been told, they no longer needed medication and they no longer needed to be hospitalized. So they were able to release all those negative emotions that had been stored in their bodies, right? That's where we store them.
It is. Trauma is heavily stored in the body, and there's just so much going on now with trauma. I just feel that it's coming out of the woodwork, and we're realizing that so many people are actually traumatized from just different events that might have happened during their childhood and throughout their lives. And there's so many audiobooks that I'm currently listening to, like The Body Keeps the Score, and really good.
And really all of those. I have them all in my library.
Oh, right. You've got them as well. I know. And there's therapy, which is great because it helps to really get you to understand about what happened to you. But then there's also, body healing as well, which is, I don't know, I'm from reading these books now, I'm feeling that that's more important.
Oh, yeah.
Body healing,
yeah. I just recently finished a really good book that you might enjoy. It's called Your Body Hears Every Word You Say. Oh, wow. And it talks about how we need to be careful about, you hear people say something about, oh, this traffic is killing me.
Yeah.
Don't say that. Your body is responding to it. Yeah. And so it talks about, how we need to watch what we say out loud and what we think, because our body will obey our commands. And so to be careful with that.
Yeah. And this is why affirmations are so important. And I know in EFT, there's a lot of affirmations in the different techniques that you do as well, right?
Absolutely.
So important. We become our words, so we need to choose our words wisely. Remember that, listeners.
Absolutely.
So let's go on when you talk about surviving the circus.
Oh, okay. So so when it turns out we all have a little circus going on, right? And at different times we need to pay attention to what's in which ring, right? So a circus has 3 rings, and the circus that I talk about is the 8 facets of your life. And I talk about, first of all, your function. How do you spend your day? Are you a full-time mom? Are you a caregiver? Do you work full-time? Are you a student? How are you spending your day? And where are you in terms of being satisfied in that, from 0 to 10? Where 0 is like, no, I really don't like this at all. I want to get out. And 10 is you're highly satisfied in it. Okay. And then the next thing is your foundation. What education, what experience, I know when I became a mother, I had no experience, which is why I ran away from home every time I gave birth. I was like, I can't deal with this. I'm leaving. I have to figure this out. I came back a couple hours later, but I can't deal with this. But how are you being trained for and once you're in a position, what are you doing for continuing education? Just like you mentioned, Anu, you're reading all these books and you're continuing your education. And just like in nature, things are either growing or decaying. If you're not growing, guess what? you're decaying. And so doing that continuing education, what books are you reading? What movies are you watching? How are you feeding your mind? The next one is family. And that is the people who raise you the first 18 years, whoever or whatever that might be. And because of family, the next one is friends, because we get to pick them.
Yeah.
And you want to watch who you pick, because you want to pick people that are at a place where you want to be, whether it's peaceful or it's a level of intelligence or it's finances or spirituality or wherever you want to be. You want to be around people who are already there so that you can learn from them.
Yeah.
And you want to know, they say, you know, you're going to be where you want to be in 5 years based on the books you read and the people you're with. So who are you with? The next one is faith. You know, what are you doing? What do you have for spirituality? And in all of this is a core. I had many friends that after their kids graduated from high school and went away to college, they kind of looked around and realized that their only purpose in life was to be a parent. And after the kids left and they realized that they really weren't a parent anymore, they realized that was their core, and that core was gone. They didn't know what to do. So they would just go exploring. Most of them got divorces. Most of them tried to figure out what to do with their lives. But what is your core? What is it you're hanging on to? Sometimes people have a person, like a spouse or a parent or a child. Sometimes people have a profession. I know when I've had my own business at different times in my life, and every time I've had to close business, it was devastating on me, I knew, because that was my core at the time. And so to find a core that's going to be stable and get you through all the things. Now, a lot of people will turn to God, spirit, universe, whatever you want to call it, and as that as your core. And a lot of people find that as a way to be able to survive through crisis, to get to victory. The next one is finances. And here's the thing, if you're not watching your finances, I can guarantee you somebody else is. So, so watch out for your finances. Then we have fitness, the 6 levels of fitness. It is the air you breathe, the food you eat, and what you drink. It's the way you move, the way you rest, and what you think. And all of those areas are important. So what are you focusing on? And the last one, which is the hardest one for me to do, Anu, I'm going to admit that, and that is, how do you have fun? I have to take this little laughing pill every day.
That's such a cute laugh. It's such a cute.
Remind me to giggle and have fun. Now, here's the thing, is that when you figure out on all of those 8 aspects where you are, like, for instance, I was working full time. I was married. I had a household. The kids were all out of the house, but I wanted to go back to school and earn my PhD. So I had to go to my supervisor at work and say, look, you're used to me giving 150%. I'm going to have to drop down while I'm going to school. Is that okay? And he said, yes, I support you. I want you to get your PhD. Brilliant. I turned to my husband and I said, I can't do the little bit that I do around the house. You're going to have to do all this. And he said, yes, I want you to get your PhD. I turned to my kids and I said, no marriages, no children. They didn't listen. But anyway, I told them that. All the things that I was volunteering for, I knew I pulled out, because right then my focus had to be what I would call my foundation. I had to focus on my PhD because you only have a certain number of years to complete it, and I wanted to get it done. So when the nice thing about surviving the circus is that you look at all these different rings that you have going on, these plates that you're juggling, and decide which ones are you going to keep up in the air and which ones are you going to set down for later, because you can't do them all the time.
Exactly. Wow. So what was the motivation to get your PhD? Because you just started a family, and that is a big commitment in itself.
So when I was 18 years old, I made a list. I wrote down a list because I had heard that there was a group of students from Yale that had written a list of their goals when they graduated from college. And 30 years later, when they came back for reunion, the ones who had written down the list, their financial net worth, which is not a gauge of all things, but it is a gauge of some things. Their financial net worth was more than those 3 students had more than the rest of the class combined. And so I thought, I need to write down my goals. So one of my number one goal at age 18 was, I said, at age 25, I'm going to complete my PhD. I had no idea what a PhD was.
Exactly right.
But I knew, I had figured out that was the highest degree you could get. And I didn't even know what I wanted to study. I just wanted a PhD. My number 2 goal was I wanted to buy a house. I wanted to be in my own house. And I remember putting in parentheses, I didn't care if I had furniture. Now, why did I want to be in my own house? Because when I was growing up, I was the oldest child of a single mom, and we moved about every 6 months. I attended 12 different schools in 5 different states. And I never knew which way was up. And so the idea of buying a house and having some sense of permanence was really important. Okay. My number 3 goal was I was going to buy a car and have it paid for by the time I was 25, because again, we were raised in poverty and nothing was ever paid for, nothing. Everything was on layaway because we didn't have credit cards. And number 4, I cannot remember what it is, but I know I had nothing to do with relationships, because number 5 was, I said, by the time I'm 25, I'm going to begin dating. Right. So let me tell you what happened. Okay. When I was 25 years old, I'd been married 5 years. That was not in the program. And I was pregnant with my first. That was nowhere on my plan. So by the time my youngest one was 25, I looked around, I went, oh, I'm working at a college. They value PhDs. All the kids are gone. If I was going to get my PhD, this is the time. So I was able to go back, and actually going back to school when you're mature is very easy, because, all those things you're worried about in the early 20s and everything, they're all gone. They're all gone. You don't worry about things, and you just really are able to focus. And I think everybody at the college is in a hurry to get you through before, you're not able.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, but how old were you? You wasn't old.
So I started when I was 54.
Your PhD. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh, wow.
And I finished it 4 years later.
That is amazing. Congratulations on that achievement.
Thank you.
It's never too late. It really isn't. Oh, wow. Because I was thinking, as soon as I see a trauma PhD, then I'm on that.
Yeah, it's early. It's easier when you're older, I'm telling you.
Okay. Wow. Hear that, listeners? If you're thinking of starting university or getting that maths GCSE, if you're in the UK, because in the UK, even to get like a job at a hospital, everyone needs English and maths, grade C or above. So, and I know that, it causes quite a stir for those who don't really enjoy maths.
Oh, okay. Well, they need to reach out to me and I will help them.
Oh, you so will. So you will get rid of the waffles, which is a worry, anxiety, fear, frustration, lethargy, exhaustion, and stress. I love that. Oh, wow. So listening with EFT, tell us about that.
So it turns out that sometimes we believe that when we're having a conversation, all we have to do is say it one way. But communication actually happens when we not only say what we have to say, but we have to listen as well. And so it's the listening part. Now, many people, and I won't name genders, but I'll say they're not here, but many genders don't want to listen because they believe that they already know the answer. And I will say I'm guilty of that as well. I'm very guilty of, you don't have to finish the sentence. I already know what you're going to say.
Yeah.
And so tapping to kind of calm yourself down so that you can listen better actually is an easy way to do it.
This is it. And I guess it all goes down to, again, balancing out the energy levels, because EFT, it touches on the actual acupuncture points, right? And it's to do with your meridian energy levels, and it's all linked to chakra healing as well, I believe. And I just think there's so much joy to be had with EFT, just, having it as like a, instilling it as part of your kind of routine in your daily life. I mean, this talk is going to be on YouTube. So if you're able to maybe assist in doing a bit of a EFT practice now.
I would love
that would be amazing.
So Anu, I'll ask you a whole bunch of questions. Now, of course, with a new client, there'd be a lot of questions ahead of time. So this is just for demonstration purposes.
Okay.
But can you think of a small thing that may have like upset you or caused you waffles in the last 24 hours?
Yeah. I guess it's putting too much pressure on myself. Okay.
So when was the last time that you put so much pressure on yourself?
Today around 12 o'clock.
Okay. Yeah. And when you think about today around, and did you say 5 o'clock?
Oh, it took 12 o'clock UK
12 o'clock.
time.
Okay, 12 o'clock. Okay, so today around 12 o'clock, when you were putting pressure on yourself, when you think about it, from the top of your head to the bottom of your toes, where do you feel that pressure in your body?
Chest. I get a tight chest. Yeah. Okay.
And when you think about putting pressure on yourself, what emotion comes up?
Anxiety. Just like I can feel my nervous system activated. So it's panic. I get sweaty. Yeah.
Which one is stronger, the anxiety or the panic?
I'd say the anxiety.
Okay. Yeah. And from 0 to 10, where 0 is like, no big deal, I'll get over it, and 10 is the most anxiety you've had in your life, what number would you give it?
Oh, today it probably would have been 8.
An 8. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And is this true right here, right now? I feel safe. Yes. Okay. And for your listening audience, I will tell them where we're tapping and what we're doing. The last question is, Anu, I'm going to ask you to repeat some words after me. If I ask you to repeat something and you go, I wouldn't have said it that way, or that's not really true, will you put it in your own words for me?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay.
First, let's start with the tapping points. We'll start on the side of the hand between the wrist and the little finger, and use the other hand and use 4 fingers of the other hand and tap right there. Now, I want you to think about that anxiousness, that anxiety that you feel in you when you're putting pressure on yourself around noon, 12 o'clock. And I want you to breathe. And when we add words, we're going to add a sentence here that we're going to repeat about 3 times. And then the next spot that we're going to tap is right on the crown of the head, on the top of the head. And you can use one hand or the other or both. It doesn't matter. Yeah, whatever feels natural. And I'm going to warn you, I'm coming in for a close-up, okay? Okay. It's on the edge of the eyebrow, right on the edge of the eyebrow, above your nose, that edge. Yeah, I know. Eyebrows got 2 edges. It just makes it
awkward.
And now we'll go to the other side, which is on the side of the eyes. Yeah. And then we're going to go to where I keep all my bags for a quick getaway, and that's under our eyes.
Oh, okay. Is it best to take glasses off?
I know. I took my glasses off so that you could see better.
Oh, yeah. I'm about to see.
And then under the nose, above the lips, we tap next. And then the next spot is under the lips, above the chin. And then we tap across our hands and on the collarbone. If you want to use one hand, just spread your hand out and go on both sides of your collarbone. And then the last spot, Anu, is about 4 inches under our arms. We're going to thump our ribs. Give your ribs a good thumping. And then I always have my clients blow all their air out.
Pressure out. Pressure out.
Okay, you ready? We're going to add words. Now, clinical studies have shown that the movements by themselves or the words by themselves are effective, but together they're like powerful. Wow. So we'll do it together. Okay. Now remember, change the words if I say something wrong. Even though when I think about today at noon at 12 o'clock.
When I think about today at noon at 12 o'clock.
And I realize I have all this anxiety in my chest.
And I realize I have all this anxiety in my chest.
Right here, right now, I feel safe anyway.
Right here, right now, I feel safe anyway.
even though
I
I have this anxiety in my chest.
have this anxiety in my chest.
Just thinking back to 12 o'clock today,
Just thinking back to 12 o'clock today.
right here, right now, I feel safe anyway.
Right here, right now, I feel safe anyway.
Even though
it
was 12 o'clock today.
It was 12 o'clock today.
And I remember I have all this anxiety in my chest still.
And I remember I have all of this anxiety in my chest still.
Right here, right now, I feel safe anyway.
Right here, right now, I feel safe anyway.
And then top of your head, this anxiety in my chest.
This anxiety in my chest.
And remember on the inside of your eyebrow, above your nose, this anxiety in my chest.
This anxiety in my chest.
And on the side of the eye, between your eye and your hairline, this anxiety in my chest.
This anxiety in my chest.
Under your eye, this anxiety in my chest.
This anxiety in my chest.
Under the nose, this anxiety in my chest.
This anxiety in my chest.
Under the lips, this anxiety in my chest.
This anxiety in my chest.
On your collarbone, all this anxiety in my chest.
All this anxiety in my chest.
And then on your ribs, some anxiety in my chest still.
Some anxiety in my chest still.
Now blow all your air out. How's
Like
that?
dragons.
I know. How's that feel now?
Yeah, I just love, I feel like there's been a lot of release.
So from when you think about noon today, from 0 to 10, and that anxiety in your chest, where is it now?
4, 3. I don't know, something just came out from my chest. What just came out? It's so
All anxiety.
wow.
And we would probably just have to do that same round one more time, and it would go to 0. Well, studies have shown that this is way more effective than cognitive behavior therapy or talk therapy, and as effective as something called EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization restructuring or something. But the thing with EMDR is you have to be sitting in front of a therapist in case you go into a traumatic response. I work with clients all over the world doing this.
Wow.
And the other thing is I had talk therapy once a week for 4 years to kind of get over stuff that went on in my childhood.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very grateful to my psychologist. He was fabulous. But you know what, Anu? At the end of each session, he'd kind of look at his watch and say, Kate, it's 60 minutes. We got to go now. Well, I was a mess. I'd be crying and sobbing and just really hysterical, right? Because we brought up all of this stuff and I'm kind of crawling my way to the door to get out to go back to work. But with tapping, we always leave with you coming back to a homeostasis so that you are back in balance and your emotions aren't controlling you anymore.
Yeah, because to be running out of that therapy room so triggered, that is dangerous. You could have gone and done anything.
Yeah, but that's all they knew, right? And so people are very good about sharing with what they know. And if that's what they know, then that's what they know.
Okay. Oh goodness. So tell us about you're currently in the process of writing a book.
Yes. So we are blessed with 5 adorable granddaughters, and I was at my 3-year-old granddaughter's house just a few weeks ago and reading her a book, a children's book about tapping, but it was all about school-age children and it was too long and everything. And I said, you know what? I'm going to write a book for little kids. It's maybe, 10 pages or something simple. So I've written a little book that is now at the graphic designers. And it's just kind of a sing-songy way to teach young children tapping. I've tapped on all of my grandchildren, including one that was just a few months old. And Anu, I know you have a wonderful son who's 3 years old. You may not remember, but way back when they were an infant, and they would get to that point where they were so hyper because of maybe people were visiting or something, and they really needed to sleep and they couldn't fall asleep. They were just, it was just too much. They were too stimulated. Well, my granddaughter was that way when we went to visit, and there wasn't anything any of us could do. So the other grandmother was holding her, trying to calm her down. She wasn't calmed down at all. And I asked everyone, I said, is it okay if I tap on her? So while she was on her grandmother's chest, I started tapping on top of her head, the side of her eye. I didn't get all the way through before she went right to sleep. Yeah. 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 So it's it is a great way to get your kids to sleep.
It is, because at the moment when he's so excited, sometimes I'm like, come on, let's just meditate. But he's not going to meditate. It's just, that's not going to happen. But and
if they won't let you tap on them, ask for their favorite plushed animal, like their teddy bear or whatever it is, and ask them if it's okay if you can tap on their little animal.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Why? Oh, just for him to see, how it's done.
And ask him if he will tap on the animal with you.
Okay, interesting. And then maybe he could copy me as I do myself. Perfect.
Let me know how this works with your son.
I'll keep you posted. But talking about meditation as well, you are a meditator as well, aren't you?
Yeah. My last book, which is it okay if I show it?
Yeah, please do. Yeah.
So my last book is called Shower of Blessings, Finding Meditation Time in a Busy Life. And I wrote it, I was having lunch with a friend, and she was saying how she really wanted to meditate, but she didn't have any time. Now, this was a single woman with no kids. You're kidding. I know, right? I'm like, you are freaking kidding me. And so I told her, I said, well, you should do what I do, which I meditate in the shower. And she's like, what are you talking about? So that's how that book started. And it's little tips for people who don't know where to start in meditation or how to begin to create a meditative life. So there's some stories in there, some of my life stories, and little steps. And it's available on Amazon for anyone who's interested.
Oh, that'd be amazing. And also you have another Tedx Talk coming through in January.
Yes. So I've been honored. There was 115 people who applied, and they selected 14 speakers. And so my talk is Science is Not the Truth.
Oh my God, that is going to raise a lot of eyebrows.
Yeah, that's the whole idea.
You're brave. You are brave.
And I'm certainly going to acknowledge all the scientific benefits that we have had as a family. My husband has been treated for bladder cancer. My sister gets shots in her eye so that she can see. And if she didn't get those shots, she wouldn't be able to see. So science has done a lot of really good things, but science doesn't have all the ways to measure all the things that are working. And just because they can't measure it or explain it, sometimes it gets dismissed.
Interesting. So are you going to be looking at different theories in your talk? Or...
Well, maybe.
Watch this space, right?
Maybe.
Okay, we won't ask anything else because it sounds like it's a surprise.
Might be a surprise.
How did you find the last TEDx talk?
So this one or the last one, you know what, it's interesting, Anu, if you're interested in being a TEDx speaker, there are 2 TED events a year, one on each coast. And not only are the speakers invited to participate, but the audience can only come by invitation. So it's like very exclusive.
That is.
But there are 6 to 8 TEDx talks a day around the world. And so they're run by local groups. Everybody who's running a TEDx is volunteer. So if you find a TEDx in your area, and maybe in a within 100 kilometers or something, that you might volunteer and help them out. And then they get to know you and you get to know them. And that was not my intention. What happened was the coordinator of the TEDx had asked me to come. I'm a professional speaker, and had asked me to come and speak to her youth groups. So I drove 3 hours one way to go and speak to these kids, about 100 kids. And I did it for a number of years. And then I realized she was also coordinating the Tedx Talks.
Oh,
and I didn't put the two things together. I applied, and of course there was nothing, nothing was, hanky panky or anything. But I think because she knew how I spoke and my quality of my speaking, that probably made a difference in selecting me. But I will tell you that Tedx volunteers are told to really stay clear of speakers like me, because when you speak from the stage, it's a totally different process than when you speak for TEDx. Wow. Totally different. And so some speakers are challenged by that. Yeah. And I will tell you that if you have a TEDx group that is around a higher institution, like around a university or college, usually those groups, I have found, my personal experience is that they promote their own professors, their own students, their own faculty. So those are a little bit harder to get into. But if you can find a small town that's doing a TEDx, and the first one that I did, they had people flying in from Australia, and it was in Florida. They had people from Boston. They had people flying in from the Palestine. Nice. They had people from all over coming to that one little tiny town in Florida.
It's huge. Goodness. So I will be posting a link to your actual talk on this description to the podcast, and also on the YouTube description as well, for those of you who would love to see Katie on the stage, giving it all, doing a tapping, sharing the joy that you have experienced from this amazing process, because I can feel it in your voice. You're so passionate about it, and it's so endearing. I love that.
Yeah. I've just seen too many people have their lives improve too dramatically to not be passionate about it. It's and you know what, Anu? It's really interesting. It's so hard to explain what it is or how it works until people actually experience it, like you did, right? And so but once people experience it, they go, oh, I get it now.
Yeah, it is. It's a release. I feel that it's a release of any kind of negative energy or toxic energy that you might be holding. And I just believe that there's something in it which is very therapeutic for the body.
Yes.
And that's what we all need. We all need body healing. Yeah.
We do.
So thank you so much. We are nearing the end of this talk.
It was so fast.
The time's gone so fast. So tell us about your favorite book that you've read so far, or books even.
Okay. So I'm reading Neil Donald Walsh's 3 books on conversations with God right now. And my mind
blown away.
Completely blown away. So that's good. I'm also reading the book called Stress, written by the physician who defined stress, Dr. Hans Sally. And he said that stress is triggered by 3 different things: uncertainty, lack of information, and loss of control. And these past 2 years, all of us have been suffering from uncertainty, lack of information, and loss of control. I've been working with a lot of clients about COVID.
Yeah, it is. It's that uncertainty which has really affected the nervous system. So a lot of us are still in that real anxiety state. So and this is why I feel techniques like EFT and just and any technique which is going to get the body moving, right? It's good.
Right. Qigong is good, yoga is good, and Reiki, all of that. Any of it's good.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us about one of your biggest regrets up until now.
So a few years ago, I would have said one of my biggest regrets would have been leaving San Francisco. We lived in San Francisco for a few years, and that was my town. But you know what? If I had not lived, if I had not left San Francisco, I probably would have gotten a divorce. This past summer, we've celebrated our 48th wedding anniversary.
Wow. Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, I'm telling you, it was a mistake, Anu, but we just haven't figured out how to get a divorce yet. So anyway, we're still stuck on it.
Let's hope he doesn't watch this.
I know. I probably wouldn't have had 3 amazingly perfect children. I probably wouldn't have had 5 adorable granddaughters.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be able to go to the beach every day and practice Qigong. So, you know, the things that I thought I would have regretted, probably I'm okay now. Yeah, no regrets.
I love that. You've turned what could have been a regret into such gratitude and joy. And yeah, and that's how we should all be living. No regrets.
No regrets.
No regrets. No, absolutely. And so what is the one piece of advice you would give to my listeners today?
Mm-hmm. So a new one piece of advice that I've had to hold on to is this too shall pass. And so waiting 24 hours before you decide to make a big decision, waiting 24 hours to see what the new day is going to bring, just waiting 24 hours and knowing that this too shall pass.
Yes. I just had shivers down my spine, because I think that is such a touching, it's a quote which we should all be following, because we're so quick to react, aren't we, to situations, whereas just delaying some time, you know, and just kind of reflecting on stuff, and then not reacting, but just acting, and, you know, not being so quick to react. I feel that that could really help to reduce the, you know, anxiety, the stress levels, and just make us into more peaceful beings, which is what the earth needs right now. Peace.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much for coming on. You have been an absolute honor. And so tell my listeners how they can find you, where they can find you.
So they can email me at hello@drnall.com. That's HELLO@DRNALL.com. For those listeners that you have in the United States, I encourage them to call me.
Pick up the phone.
My phone number, I'm at 772-480-0541. I challenge your listeners to do that. If I can't answer the phone, leave a message and I will call you back. On my website, I'm a bit of a punster. My last name is Nall, Nall. So my website is knowledgecompany.com, NALLEDGECO.com, knowledgecompany.com. And then find out about all the ways I can help them.
Oh, amazing. And I will add all of those links, including her telephone number, again, in the description box. I don't think I've had anyone giving out their telephone number, so that's very brave of you.
You know, I have given that out for years, and in probably the 10 years that I have been telling people my phone number, I've gotten 2 phone calls. So maybe your listeners will call me.
Challenge right there, listeners. I suppose I could text you as well. That seems to be a millennial thing to do.
Yeah,
texting.
I've got a text reader. I can figure this out. Yeah. I'll have my granddaughters read it to me.
Or like when I'm in the car, it just reads it out to me. Thinking, oh, where did that come from? Who is this person? Oh wow, it's been an absolute honor. And again, thank you so much. And listeners, please do, you know, let us know if you have any questions about this talk about EFT. You know, if you need any more information on that, then myself and also Dr. Katie Nall will be very happy to help you out. Thank you for listening and watching. If you're watching us on YouTube, we love you all, and stay blessed, my dear friends. I shall see you in the next show.